Chapter 3. The Shadow. One of the first considerations which arose in the business mind of Mr. Lorry when business hours came round was this, that he had no right to imperil or risk Tellson's by sheltering the wife of an emigrant or fugitive under the bank roof. His own possessions, safety, life, he would have hazarded or risked for Lucie and her child without a moment's demur or hesitation. But the great trust he held was not his own, and as to that business charge he was a strict man of business. At first his mind reverted to Defarge, and he thought of finding out the wine shop again and taking counsel or advice with its master in reference to the safest dwelling place in the distracted state of the city. But the same consideration that suggested him, repudiated or rejected him. He lived in the most violent quarter, and doubtless was influential there, and deep in its dangerous workings. Noon coming, and the doctor not returning, and every minute's delay tending to compromise Tellson's, Mr. Lorry advised with Lucie. She said that her father had spoken of hiring a lodging or renting a place for a short term in that quarter near the banking house. As there was no business objection to this, and as he foresaw that even if it were all well with Charles, and he were to be released, he could not hope to leave the city, Mr. Lorry went out in quest of such a lodging, and found a suitable one, high up in a removed by-street where the closed blinds and all the other windows of a high melancholy or sad square of buildings marked deserted homes. To this lodging he at once removed Lucie and her child, and Miss Pross, giving them what comfort he could, and much more than he had himself. He left Jerry with them, as a figure to fill a doorway that would bear considerable knocking on the head and retain to his own occupations. A disturbed and doleful or troubled mind he brought to bear upon them, and slowly and heavily the day lagged on with him. It wore itself out and wore him out with it until the bank closed. He was again alone in his room of the previous night, considering what to do next, when he heard a foot upon the stair. In a few moments a man stood in his presence, who, with a keenly observant look at him, addressed him by his name. "Your servant," said Mr. Lorry. "Do you know me?" He was a strongly made man with dark curling hair, from 45 to 50 years of age. For answer he repeated, without any change of emphasis, the words, "Do you know me? I have seen you somewhere, perhaps at my wine shop." Much interested and agitated, Mr. Lorry said, "You come from Dr. Manette?" "Yes, I come from Dr. Manette." "And what says he? What does he send me?" Defarge gave into his anxious hand an open scrap of paper. It bore the words in the doctor's writing. "Charles is safe, but I cannot safely leave this place yet. I have obtained the favor or privilege that the bearer or messenger has a short note from Charles to his wife. Let the bearer see his wife. Let the bearer see his wife." It was dated from La Force within an hour. "Will you accompany me," said Mr. Lorry, joyfully relieved after reading this note aloud, "to where his wife resides?" "Yes," returned Defarge, scarcely noticing as yet in what a curiously reserved and mechanical way Defarge spoke. Mr. Lorry put on his hat, and they went down into the courtyard. There they found two women, one knitting. "Madame Defarge, surely," said Mr. Lorry, who had left her in exactly the same attitude or pose some 17 years ago. "It is she," observed her husband. "Does Madame go with us?" inquired Mr. Lorry, seeing that she moved as they moved. "Yes, that she may be able to recognize the faces and know the persons. It is for their safety." Beginning to be struck by Defarge's manner, Mr. Lorry looked dubiously at him and led the way. Both the women followed, the second woman being the Vengeance, or Avenger. They passed through the intervening or between streets as quickly as they might, ascended or climbed the staircase of the new domicile or home, were admitted by Jerry, and found Lucie weeping, alone. She was thrown into a transport or state by the tidings Mr. Lorry gave her of her husband, and clasped the hand that delivered his note, little thinking what it had been doing near him in the night, and might, but for a chance, have done to him. "That my father," said Lucie, hurriedly taking the paper from her breast, but with her alarmed eyes on her questioner and not on it, "has much influence around him." "Surely it will release him," said Madame Defarge. "Let it do so." As a wife and mother, cried Lucie most earnestly, I implore or beg you to have pity on me, and not to exercise any power that you possess against my innocent husband, but to use it in his behalf. O sister woman, think of me. As a wife and mother. Madame Defarge looked, coldly as ever, at the suppliant or pleader, and said, turning to her friend, the Vengeance, the wives and mothers we have been used to see since we were as little as this child, and much less, have not been greatly considered. We have known their husbands and fathers laid in prison and kept from them often enough. All our lives we have seen our sister women suffer, in themselves and in their children, poverty, nakedness, hunger, thirst, sickness, misery, oppression, and neglect of all kinds. We have seen nothing else, returned the Vengeance. We have borne or endured this a long time, said Madame Defarge, turning her eyes again upon Lucie. Judge you, is it likely that the trouble of one wife and mother would be much to us now? She resumed her knitting and went out. The Vengeance followed. Defarge went last and closed the door. Courage, my dear Lucie, said Mr. Lorry, as he raised her. Courage, courage. So far all goes well with us. Much, much better than it has of late gone with many poor souls. Cheer up, and have a thankful heart. I am not thankless, I hope, but that dreadful woman seems to throw a shadow on me and on all my hopes. Tut, tut, said Mr. Lorry. What is this despondency or sadness in the brave little breast? A shadow indeed, no substance in it, Lucie. But the shadow of the manner of these Defarges was dark upon himself, for all that, and in his secret mind it troubled him greatly. Thank you for joining us through this chapter of A Tale of Two Cities. If you're enjoying the story, the vocabulary lessons, and the background information that makes this classic novel more coherent, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's keep learning together. See you in the next chapter.